this very comprehensive and excellent analysis and report with wonderful recommendations, 20 of them. I was talking to my colleague here whilst the first speaker was mentioning the recommendations, and I was asking him, can we get this database going quickly? So he said, yes, we'll link all the state databases and then we will try and see what we can do by the central government. So thank you very much. I feel very privileged to be here with you today in this important function. Thank you, Sucheta ji.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Well, let me start, first of all, by acknowledging and expressing my gratitude for this very distinguished participation. Shri Deepak Parekh ji, Gautam Chatterjee ji, Sucheta Dalal ji, Devashri Basu ji, chairpersons and members of RERA, appellate tribunals and regulatory authorities, home buyers, consumers, developers, real estate agents, representatives of banks and financial institutions, representatives of other regulatory bodies, research team from the Moneylife Foundation, ladies and gentlemen. Let me at the outset express my appreciation to both the Moneylife Foundation and HDFC for this effort in coming out with a report reviewing in particular the efficacy of Real Estate Act RERA from a consumer perspective, and also for I also want to thank you for inviting me to this release function. For those of you who have had to listen to me on earlier occasions on RERA, let me, even at the risk of being repetitive, say that I have always wondered, I have been bewildered how a sector as important as real estate, which no matter which way you analyze the economy, in terms of activity, in terms of employment, in terms of the future, I liked in particular what Mr. Parekh said, as India builds, India will grow. I think that sums it up. And I've always maintained, how is it for so many years as an independent country, we did not have a regulator in this section? Now, I want to fast forward a bit. I came on the scene only in September 2017, and RERA had been enacted by Parliament a few months earlier, in March 2016, within a year and a half of the Modi government assuming office. And all I can tell you is that the facts speak for themselves. I'm not merely rejoicing in the success of Maharashtra RERA, but even if you look at the overall statistics, yes, Maharashtra has been in the lead. It has provided guidance, but others have followed. So we have, as the first speaker pointed out, 60,000 projects have been registered, 45,723 agents have been registered, 60,000 complaints have been redressed, disposed of as part of the dispute settlement machinery. 34 states and union territories have notified their rules. 30 states and union territories have set up regulatory authorities. 26 states and UTs have set up appellate tribunals. Now, by any yardstick, given the time that we have had this legislation on the book, journey has been difficult, and I'll come to that in a minute, but permit me to make one general comment about this sector. I'm particularly grateful to Sucheta ji when she mentioned the reverse mortgages report, to Mr. Parekh for mentioning rental housing as something we should work on. Sucheta ji also mentioned retirement homes. And I can tell you, I have, at least on the issue of the retirement homes, I take great pride. because somebody had to apply their minds in an out-of-box manner on this sector, which otherwise does not gain. So we came up in the ministry, thanks to inputs provided by our friends who are participating today, with this report, Model Guidelines for Development and Regulation of Retirement Homes. This has gone to all the states because land is a state subject. I was telling my colleagues here who are joining me today, we must now find some way of not giving the impression that we are trying to intrude into the space of the state governments, because land is a state subject, but find some way, maybe utilize the good offices of HDFC and others to tell them what can be done. I'm doing that in Delhi, but I'd like some state governments to take the lead, follow the template, the guidelines which have been provided, and then move forward so that a very important sector of our society, the senior citizens, also have a focused way of looking. Reverse mortgages is one part of it. Retirement homes is another. I'm just mentioning this in order to drive home the point that this is a sector where developments invariably take a little longer than others. But the good news is that we are on the right track and that direction is very, very positive. And I totally agree on rental housing. That's something my colleagues in my ministry spend a lot of time. We'd be very happy to partner with you. We'll also share with you some of the initiatives we are taking. I'm very proud that Maharashtra reduced stamp duty, but I've written to all the state governments. Some of the others have done it too. So when I meet my friends in Naretko and Kredai, they tell me they've had the best Diwali in a long time. I take that, I draw some strength from it, but I think we need to make that progress on a more sustainable basis. We need others to do it. And when Mr. Parekh says that interest rates are down, I am again encouraged, because I've lived, I know most of you know, many years of my life outside. When I look at interest rates in other places, I think that's the direction to go in the housing sector in order to really make this an affordable product for so many people who are in our Pradhan Mantri Aviation Yojana is doing roaringly well. 1 crore 12 lakh target we've already done. I think 1 crore 9 lakh. We have 70 lakh units under construction. We've handed over about 40-50 lakhs. And no matter which way I look at it, the figures are good. Let me come back to RERA. Many of you may not remember, because we look at the positive side of life, but when the real estate bill was introduced in the Rajya Sabha in 2013, there were stark differences between the bill that was introduced in 2013 and the bill which was finally introduced and enacted in 2016. For those of you who may not recall the differences, let me take the liberty of pointing out the significant differences between the two. The 2013 bill did not cover ongoing projects. It also did not cover commercial real estate. The threshold for registration was so high that most housing projects would have escaped coverage under the law. I'm talking about the 2013 law. These exclusions would have made RERA almost meaningless, providing mere lip service, very much like some of our Garibi Hatao campaigns which we have conducted without actually being able to deliver for those who really need this kind of positive affirmative action coming from the state. After the formation of the Modi government in 2014, a holistic review was carried out along with multiple stakeholder discussions, and we included, as part of a conscious decision, ongoing projects and commercial projects. We also reduced the threshold for project registration through our official amendments in 2015. Later, we also referred the bill along with the official amendments to a select committee of the Rajya Sabha under the able chairmanship of the late Shri Anil Madhav Daveji, a former BJP MP from Madhya Pradesh. The committee traveled across the country, creating a conducive atmosphere in the spirit of cooperative federalism, and suggested a more holistic bill for the sector. The bill went through several stages and I'm not going to go into other details. All I can share with you is that I find it very difficult, but I have not succumbed to the temptation as yet. I try to conceal the list of people who tried to sabotage this legislation. And they came from all over the place. They came saying that the legislation did not go far enough, that the legislation must be tweaked, and many of these ideas, many of these doubts found their way into the multiple challenges that the legislation invited, which the Honorable Supreme Court put together in one bundle and placed before the Honorable Mumbai High Court. And I think I had the privilege of, being around as minister when those challenges were being addressed. I had absolutely no doubt that our judiciary and the steadfast resoluteness of the Prime Minister, who overcame these objections, including, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, from within his own party, in order to be able to take this legislation forward. And there, even when this challenge was met, there were people who said, no, this will destroy the industry, this will not influence the home buyers, this will not. And I always maintained, and through number of interactions with my friend Mr. Gautam Chatterjee, with the people in other states, including Mr. Desai in Madhya Pradesh, other places, I said, we should not get into this with a preconceived mindset and a myopic view. And the dispute resolution which has taken place under RERA has clearly demonstrated that it is not as, I think it was Shri Parekh who said, it is one-sided. And I think, Gautam, many people say a lot of nice things to you, but I think your name will always be remembered for having set the benchmark for the kind of objectivity which this sector deserves. And I'm an optimist by nature. I get trolled. Today I'm feeling in a very good mood because the Honorable Supreme Court has cleared my Central Vista project. And I tell you, we will deliver a world-class parliament befitting a new India, thanks to the Prime Minister, by the time we celebrate our 75th anniversary in 2022. So we keep getting challenges all over. But I think I draw strength when I see people like this participating, because we are going in the right direction. And RERA, believe me, is one of the most important pieces of legislation. I have always maintained that there is going to be, when you write the history of this period, there's going to be a pre-RERA period and a post-RERA period. Now, my speaking notes are very long. All I'm going to say, just take out one or two points. What did we do? An insight, let me share an insight on this RERA. While the bill was pending in Parliament, the Congress government in Maharashtra quickly enacted its own law in the Assembly and took presidential assent under Article 254 of the Constitution in February 2014, just 2 months prior to the 2014 general election. This effectively meant that in the state of Maharashtra, RERA would not have applied. Now, for me, I'm not wanting to put a political point on it. You called me more a civil servant than a politician, but this is a political game. At the end of the day, we have to navigate our way through political reality. I must say that at the very least, I am cynical, if not suspicious, that a government in Maharashtra approved a state bill on a subject on which it had its own central bill pending in Parliament. Now, I cannot, at least in the BJP, imagine that any of my colleagues who are chief ministers in state would bring a legislation in their state assembly when you have the ruling party submitting its own legislation in the central parliament. But that is what happened. I don't want to go into detail, but prior to the general election, the UPA dangled an incomplete and incoherent law while clandestinely approving under section Article 254 of the Constitution its own party's bill in Maharashtra, which would have caused permanent damage to home buyers in Maharashtra. I'm very happy to tell you that we corrected this anomaly through our official amendments in 2015 by repealing the State Act by Section 92 of RERA. This was done by using the same Article 254 of the Constitution, which under the proviso provides for powers of repeal. Our battle for RERA did not end with its enactment in Parliament. I've already briefly touched on this next battle we had to fight in the Mumbai High Court. But again, I'm going to fast forward and say we were able to overcome that. And now let me tell you, going forward, we are committed to ensuring a progressive and thriving real estate sector with the consumer, the home buyer at the center of it all. And I am very happy to see that this report, which we have just released, has brought out the consumer-centric perspective in no uncertain manner. The report makes some very important recommendations, ranging from definitional issues to reconciliation between provision. The report also highlights how orders passed by regulatory authorities are not being implemented in some cases. I assure you that we will have all these thoroughly examined and take corrective measures as deemed necessary. One of the points I picked up, which is not in my prepared speaking notes, is that the 20 recommendations you showed, I think one of you said that data is gold. Well, I think if not gold, it may be even more valuable. But I think, let me say that from my ministry's point of view, we'll work with anyone, the state RERA authorities. Let's have a central database, which we have all the constituent segments, the states. We let all the stakeholders also have access to the database, because the maximum transparency that you can introduce, you will find that the sector will begin to benefit from that free flow of information. I would have liked to not include one particular state which decided to move on its own. All I can say is that this defiance of constitutional principles by that state government has been challenged before the Honorable Supreme Court through a public interest litigation, which has issued notice to that particular state government. The Union of India has already filed our affidavit in that matter. We are very confident, and I can say this on record, that that state government's legislation will be rendered unconstitutional by the Honorable Supreme Court. I have immense faith in our institutional machinery and sense of justice there, and that we will have a one nation, one RERA, thereby equally benefiting home buyers in all the states, including in that state where it has not been applied. The report also lists some states which have more than proactively implemented RERA. I would, through this forum, urge the other states to expeditiously complete all administrative requirements so that RERA is implemented both in letter and spirit across the country. RERA is a novel exercise in cooperative federalism. Though the act has been piloted by the central government, the rules are to be notified by the state government, and the regulatory authorities and appellate tribunal are also to be appointed by them. On the other hand, the regulatory authorities are required to manage the day-to-day operation, resolve disputes, including running an active and informative website for project information. All the wheels of this mammoth exercise in governance will have to work in harmony, which they are already doing, and to reap the dividends envisaged under RERA. And I want to just inject a personal note, again, not part of my speaking, that one of the things I used to be trolled on most when I had just become a minister were complaints. Then slowly, when the dispute resolution took place, when more and more projects got listed and registered, when more agents got registered, I find that the narrative has changed. We have had to take some separate action in the territories around Delhi, Noida, Greater Noida, Yamuna Expressway. That is also proceeding well. Left to myself, I would want instant resolution, but I am as much a product of the system as everyone else. So I know that the challenge lies in navigating on a constant basis forward sometimes making allowance for the fact things happen a little less, a little slowly, and not as fast as one wanted to be. But I think we are doing very, very well, and RERA is clearly going to be the, how do I say, provide the coordinates for the not only the revival but the roaring success of the real estate sector. Let me conclude by again congratulating the lead author, Maya and her team, Moneylife Foundation and HDFC Limited for coming out with this timely report. My congratulations. Thank you very much.